Howdy, and welcome to LeeReads, where I talk about the books I've been reading and enjoying lately. Earlier this month, I read a really fun science fiction story that I thought deserved its own video because I enjoyed it so much. But I decided rather than telling you about just one fun, fast science fiction read, I thought I would bring you a list of 5 fun and fast science fiction stories that you can enjoy going into the summer. They're easy to pick up and put down or even finish if you're traveling, on vacation, or just need a little bit of an escape. I'm going to start with the book that inspired this video, Hunt the Stars by Jessie Mihalik. This is a science fiction romance. I would have to classify the romantic subplot of the story as extremely prominent. However, there are other plots and motivations going on that I think gives this a very well-rounded story, and I would recommend it to any fan of science fiction. It follows a woman and her crew who in years past were part of a war against a humanoid but alien race, and she's sort of a war hero from the things that she did in that past. However, the thing that happened that gave her this war hero status is really a lot more complicated than it seems. So she has a good reputation with her own people, the human race who have colonized the stars, and her reputation precedes her in a negative way when it comes to dealing with the Valofs, the race that humanity was fighting. Nowadays, she and those who survived of her squad are smugglers. They left military service, they're independent, they're just trying to make their way in the galaxy. Things are a little bit desperate, and she needs 1 or 2 really good jobs to help keep her and her crew afloat. She's approached by a handful of Valofs, who are this alien race that humanity was fighting, and propositioned with a job. If she will find something for them, the payoff is really too good to be true. One hitch is the leader of the Valofs here is a general in their army, and there's definitely an uneasy tension between her crew and his squad, as inevitably she takes the job and they have to head into Valof space to get it done. One thing I liked about this story is it's a slice of life meets going on this mission meets a side of a romantic subplot. I always hear about Becky Chambers' A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet being light on the plot, heavy on the characters, really comforting a family in space. And I felt like we got a lot of those moments while on board the ship headed into Valof space. A bit of slice of life, a bit of trying to tease out the differences between the humans and the Valofs, try to work out those differences before they have to work together in enemy territory. I devoured it in just a couple of days, and of course, when I read the back cover, I was thinking, there might be a little bit of a romance hidden in here. And I was right, and the story basically gave me exactly what I wanted. It gave me enough of a romance, it gave me enough of this really interesting world building and plot, and I highly recommend it. Next, almost classic at this point, The Martian by Andy Weir. It is about an astronaut who is on a mission to Mars and gets stranded there. His crew thinks he's dead, they have to evacuate back to Earth, and by the time that anyone realizes he's still alive, it's very complicated to rescue him. The story follows Mark Watney, the astronaut, as he is figuring out how to survive on Mars and hopefully will get rescued. They did make a movie adaptation of this book, which is one of my comfort watches. I watch it several times a year. I just really love how they did the movie. Mark Watney, a character, has this sense of humor that really resonates through the book that really helps to kind of keep buoyancy in this very dire situation where things just keep getting worse. I've heard The Martian be described as, if you like that scene in Apollo 13 where all the engineers get in a room and they have to figure out how to get the square oxygen scrubber into the round hole thing using only the pieces that would be on board the capsule, that's basically what The Martian is. Another quick fun read. Okay, one of my favorites, Murderbot. The Murderbot series opens with 4 novellas before you get a novel-length story followed by another novella with another novella on the way. The story centers around this android, this security unit, who has named itself Murderbot, mostly android but with some human parts. He's a security unit contracted by the company that owns it to provide security for a group of scientists who are exploring an alien planet. Murderbot doesn't really like being around humans. All it wants to do is be left alone where it can watch the media. Of course, these pesky humans keep getting themselves into trouble, and for some reason, Murderbot is growing a little bit attached to this particular group. Soon, we realize that there may be a lot more going on here, and Murderbot needs to get its clients out of it. Like I said, I adore Murderbot. I love this sense of humor. The world building opens up with each subsequent novella. I enjoyed the series so much that when my husband was recovering from surgery and bedridden, it was basically the perfect trap because he couldn't escape, and I just sat there and read the entire series to him. If you haven't read Murderbot, please check it out. Next on my list is a novel that I've talked about fairly recently because I finished the series. That is Leviathan Wakes by James S.A. Corey. What I like about Leviathan Wakes is even though it's a thick book, I feel that the writing style is very accessible and quick and easy to read. The first novel of the series primarily follows two main characters, James Holden and Detective Miller. In the world building of the series, civilization is really divided between the Inners and the Belters. The Inner faction consists of those who live on Earth, Mars, and the Moon, whereas the Belters consist of those who live in the asteroid belt. They're not from a planet. Most of them have never ever been on a planet. The economy of what the Belters rely on Inners for and how the Inners rely on the Belters, it essentially boils down to the Belters basically being oppressed and used in a sense by the more powerful Inner factions. There are always rebellious factions brewing against the Inners, and peace really balances on the edge of the knife. So in that backdrop, you have James Holden, who's the ex-Oven ice hauler. They're just making their standard run between two asteroids, hauling ice, and they discover a ship with a distress beacon and decide it's the right thing to do. They're going to try to help this ship. Meanwhile, Detective Miller is on Ceres in the asteroid belt and gets assigned to find a missing person, the daughter of an influential Inner who has fallen in with one of the Belter rebellious factions, and he has been tasked with finding her and bringing her home. What James Holden and his companions find aboard that drifting, abandoned vessel is something that no one was ever meant to find. The story explodes out from there. You have political tensions on top of the mystery of what is the secret, what is this thing that they found, what does it mean, and then how does this missing person fit in with all of that. It's really good, very fast-paced despite its length. The TV show adaptation is also phenomenal. The last book on the list is a heist story wrapped in military science fiction called The Misfit Soldier, which I do have a full review on. Follows a sergeant who on the surface is determined to rescue one of his squad who was left behind during their last mission. While one of the upper-ups has given him the wink and the nod to go ahead with this rescue attempt, it's not formally sanctioned by the military because the risk is too great. So he has to use his connections in sort of the gray and black market of the military in order to get the job done. Is his squad member really missing? What is his main motivations for wanting to get back down on that planet, and what's he looking for? Like I said, it's a heist wrapped up in military science fiction. Really fun. I listened to it on audiobook. It was very entertaining. Check out that review if you want to hear more. So those are 5 science fiction stories that are fun, fast, perfect for the summertime, or anytime really where you just need to lose yourself in an engaging story. Hopefully there was something on this list that you found interesting, and please let me know if you're going to check out any of the books that I mentioned. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to support your local library.